Halftime of Game 7 in Chicago. Michael Jordan with 29 points, though he missed his last 3 shots from the floor. And despite yielding the 29 to Michael, the Knicks, led by Patrick Ewing's 14, trailing by only 5, 56-51. The winner gets the Cleveland Cavaliers in the next round. The Cavs over the Celtics in Game 7 earlier today, 122 to 104. Bob Costas at the NBA Draft Lottery, being held this year in the studios of NBA Entertainment in Secaucus, New Jersey. The NBA Draft itself will take place on June 24th in Portland. Today, the order of selection in the draft has been determined by the lottery. Here's a little background. The lottery was instituted in 1985 in part to remove the appearance of teams with poor records losing intentionally in order to secure a high pick in the draft based solely on order of finish. So what's at stake in this year's draft? Well, in some years, it's not exactly clear which player will be taken with the first pick. Not so this time. Barring the unforeseen, the first selection will almost certainly be LSU's Shaquille O'Neal.
He's amazing. And the thing I like about him, too, is that he can run up and down the basketball court, and you can give it to him on the run, and he can make a good decision.
If he does the things he's supposed to do, after watching him play, I think he's the best player we have, other than Michael Jordan, of course.
Yeah.
But I think once he gets in the league and gets established, he's going to be the same type of player. He won't be as flashy, but he's right up there with the best of all of them right now.
People out there that have a lot of expectations, and I'm not going to come into the league and try to rush anything. I'm just going to take 1 year at a time, and hopefully I'll become a great player.
All 11 of the lottery teams have said they would select O'Neal if given the chance. Other prominent players sure to go in the first few picks are Georgetown's Alonzo Mourning, Duke's Christian Laettner, and Ohio State's Jimmy Jackson. Now, perhaps as much interest surrounds this draft lottery as any since the first one back in 1985. That was the year, you may recall, in which the Knicks won the lottery and selected Patrick Ewing with the #1 pick. Right now, here's a review of the rules and an explanation of how the draft lottery works, and pay attention. The 11 teams that didn't qualify for the playoffs all have a shot at the #1 pick. That's Minnesota, Orlando, Dallas, Denver, Washington, Sacramento, Milwaukee, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Houston. The Bucks and Hornets finished with identical records, and a special draw held at the conclusion of the regular season determined that Milwaukee gets one more ball than Charlotte. If neither team winds up in the top 3, then the Bucks select before the Hornets. The NBA uses a weighted system which increases the chances of the teams with the worst records getting the top picks. The Timberwolves will have 11 chances out of 66 for the top pick, each chance represented by a ball. Orlando gets 10 chances, one more than Dallas, and so on down to Houston, which has 1 chance in 66. The balls are placed in a clear cylinder. They will be mixed and then drawn to the top. The first to emerge from the cylinder will represent the first pick in the draft. The second non-duplicate ball will get the second pick, and the third non-duplicate ball, the third pick. The order of selection for the remaining 8 teams will be determined by inverse order of their regular season records. This guarantees the team with the worst record, Minnesota, of no lower than the 4th overall pick. Okay, the actual drawing has just been conducted in a separate room under the supervision of NBA Deputy Commissioner Russ Granick. The process was witnessed by representatives of the 11 lottery teams, different representatives from the individuals sitting here. Also there was Phil Laskaway, a partner in the international accounting firm of Ernst & Young. Mr. Laskaway is the only person in this studio who knows the results, including Commissioner David Stern. Immediately following the drawing, Mr. Laskaway took the logo for each lottery team and placed it into a numbered envelope corresponding to that team's position in the 1992 draft. Since then, Mr. Laskaway, and I swear this is true, has retained exclusive custody of the envelopes, which he has just placed in order on the numbered board. The sealed envelopes will be opened shortly by Commissioner Stern. But first, here are the team representatives. From the Houston Rockets, General Manager Steve Patterson. From the Atlanta Hawks, General Manager Pete Babcock. Representing the Philadelphia 76ers, their GM, Gene Shue. Now, the Charlotte Hornets won the lottery last year, took Larry Johnson. He wound up being the Rookie of the Year. I'm told that all the Charlotte representatives, including their head coach, Alan Bristow, stayed in the same hotel, tried to go to the same restaurants, dressed the same way, whatever, to try and duplicate their luck, and there's Alan Bristow. The Milwaukee Bucks are represented by their new head coach, Mike Dunleavy. From the Sacramento Kings, the Director of Player Personnel, Jerry Reynolds. From the Washington Bullets, General Manager John Nash. Representing the Denver Nuggets, GM Bernie Bickerstaff. From the Dallas Mavericks, the President and owner, Donald Carter. Howdy, Don. From the Orlando Magic, GM Pat Williams. And finally, representing the Minnesota Timberwolves, their president, Bob Stein. Commissioner Stern will open the envelopes representing the selection order 11 through 1. Keep in mind that since slots 4 through 11 are determined by inverse order of regular season finish, and only the first 3 positions are determined by the lottery, if Houston, for example, doesn't come up 11th, or Atlanta doesn't come up 10th, and so on, it means that team has defied the odds and lucked into one of the top 3 selections. And now to announce the order of the first 11 picks of this year's NBA draft, here's the Commissioner, David Stern.
Good afternoon and welcome to the NBA Draft Lottery. Everyone has been briefed on the lottery procedures, so let's get started and see who picks where in the 1992 NBA Draft. The 11th pick goes to the Houston Rockets.
As expected, they had 1 ball out of 66, so no disappointment really for Steve Patterson.
The 10th pick goes to the Atlanta Hawks.
And form holding so far.
The 9th pick goes to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Charles Barkley said if they don't get one of the top 2 picks, they should trade him unless they get Mourning or O'Neal.
The 8th pick goes to the Milwaukee Bucks.
That means that Charlotte has moved up. Charlotte has one of the top 3 picks.
The 7th pick goes to the Sacramento Kings. The 6th pick goes to the Washington Bullets.
Everything is held according to statistical probability except Charlotte, which has moved into the first 3 picks.
The 5th pick goes to the Denver Nuggets. The 4th pick goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
Orlando, Minnesota, and Charlotte.
Must be the shoes and not the hat. And now the first 3 picks in the 1992 NBA Draft. The 3rd pick in the 1992 NBA Draft goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Orlando and Charlotte.
The 2nd pick in the 1992 NBA Draft goes to the Charlotte Hornets. And that means
Orlando's got it.
that the Orlando Magic will pick first in the 1992 NBA Draft. Come on up, Pat.
Pat Williams, the colorful former GM of the Philadelphia 76ers, has been with the Orlando Magic from the inception of the franchise, and now his team owns the #1 pick in the June 24th draft. We'll talk with Pat right after this message from Prudential and a word from the NBA. Okay, we're back in Secaucus, New Jersey, where the NBA Draft Lottery has just been held. This is the GM of the Orlando Magic. I don't know if this is the very ball, but one of these Orlando Magic ping pong balls came up with the #1 pick. I see you're already holding the jersey.
Well, we got a jersey #1 on it.
And what does it say on the back?
There says O'Neal.
It says O'Neal. Obviously,
With a 1.
Obviously, you would like to take Shaquille O'Neal. You're telling me you will take Shaquille O'Neal despite the possible problems in signing him?
Well, we'll get him signed. I'm sure at some point he's a terrific talent, and Orlando's a great market and a great city. We got a good nucleus, and to get a player like O'Neal is a pretty unique opportunity. We'll talk to him, obviously, and want to bring he and his family to Orlando, and we've got about 5 weeks to work on that. But it's an exciting time for us, Bob. To win something like this is very special for our franchise.
You'd have a chance to reunite him with his LSU teammate, Stanley Roberts,
Well,
right?
they'd take up a lot of room. They would blot out the sun on a lot of days. They're an enormous pair, but you never, just like in baseball, you never enough pitching. In basketball, you never have enough big people. So to have an opportunity to get 2 young big men like that is pretty unique for us.
So you foresee a Twin Towers situation?
Well, I'm not sure all the time. I'll let Matty Gukas and his staff worry about that. I think at this point, if you have talent, you figure out a way to use it. And O'Neal is a remarkable talent. Stanley Roberts is a very special young big man prospect, too.
What about the possibility of trading Shaquille O'Neal? There has been talk, and he's tried to soft pedal it in the last few days, but talk that he might be so difficult to sign that he might try to force a trade to a location of his choice.
Well, obviously, one of the things that we have done with all the interviews of players that we've drafted over the years, Bob, point blank, do you want to play for our franchise? We've asked them that point blank, and we'll do the same with Shaquille.
You know, it's another interesting thing. I know you feel your own exhilaration here, but Charlotte had the #1 pick last year. They got Larry Johnson. You take O'Neal, they can get Alonzo Mourning. What a team they're building.
Well, they got a terrific break today. I think as the lottery really fell out today, there was one out-of-the-ordinary event today, and that was Charlotte, who should have been, what, 7th or whatever, and they plunk up there at 2, so they would have a choice of Mourning or Leitner or a lot of different people, and with Larry Johnson and Gill and the young club they're building, I'd say this is a very special day for Charlotte, too.
Pat Williams of the Orlando Magic, congratulations.
Thank you, Robert.
You told me before the selection, save this seat, I'll be right up.
That's right.
And you turned out to be prophetic. Here is the review now of the lottery selection. The first pick to the Orlando Magic, the second pick, the Charlotte Hornets, third pick, Minnesota Timberwolves, who had the best statistical possibility of getting the first pick. They settled for the third. The fourth goes to Dallas, the fifth to Denver, the sixth to the Washington Bullets, the seventh to the Sacramento Kings, the eighth to Milwaukee. There's the Pat Williams reaction, which you're going to see in just a moment. We have it on replay. What did I say? Eighth to Milwaukee, the ninth to the Philadelphia 76ers, the 10th to the Atlanta Hawks, and the 11th pick, as expected, to the Houston Rockets. They had only one chance in 66 of nabbing the #1 selection. And we'll return with second half action. The Bulls over the Knicks, 56-51. There's that reaction I was telling you about. Pat Williams, yes, the Orlando Magic. They have the #1 pick in the 1992 NBA draft. It's the Bulls over the Knicks in Game 7 from Chicago by 5. And we're back to Marv, Mike, and Magic after these messages from your local station.
This has been the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by the companies of the Prudential. In a changing world, one thing remains rock solid: the Prudential.